Please welcome Bob Blakley, Global Head of Security Innovation at Citigroup.
Thanks very much. I came up here yesterday. I was on Delta. Apparently they have a new economy comfort section. It's nice. It's nicer than the economy suffering section further back. People still sneeze on you if you're in the middle seat. So I'll be here for a couple of days, and then I will go home, and I'll watch the Astros win the World Series, and then on Wednesday or Thursday I'll get up and I'll have a headache, and I'll think, oh yeah, probably had too much beer while watching the Astros, and then later in the evening, it'll turn into a fever, and it'll turn out that I have the new bird flu, which I got in seat 11B on Delta. And so, as my own chief immune system officer, I will declare this to be a zero-day attack, and I'll go down to Walgreens and get NyQuil and Advil and what have you. But of course, the virus doesn't think it's day zero. The virus thinks it's day 5. The virus thinks day 0 happened on that Delta flight where I was in the middle seat. Now, of course, we should be smarter than this, being highly advanced technologists when we run our businesses, right? So when we have an asset in our enterprise and something happens in the enterprise, of course, we don't actually immediately declare it to be day 0. We don't notice it necessarily. And then, of course, when it spreads a little bit, we don't notice it again. And then it spreads further, and we don't notice it again. And that goes on often for 120 days, right, of persistent infection in the network until finally something terrible happens. We get a call from a business partner or an alarm goes off in the SIM, and we declare this to be day 0. I think it would be a better idea to synchronize our watches with the enemy and agree on when day 0 happens, because what we're doing now is we are, by the way, this, if you haven't seen both of these things, the top is the NIST Cybersecurity Framework Taxonomy of Actions, and the bottom is the cyber kill chain, right? And so what we are trying to do at the moment is we're trying to move faster in this phase. Well, there's a limited amount of advantage in that very short phase. So maybe we could do something smarter. Maybe we could use more of this phase, more of the, the adversary is there, but we're not noticing it or responding, to get a better handle on the problem. And fortunately, we're now starting to have tools to be able to do this, right? So, if somebody lands in our network far away, we don't have to, just wait while they move. We can, put a minefield in place in the enterprise. So, by the way, have any of you used a minefield? One, okay, good. Nadav, you didn't use a minefield? Well, so if you read the owner's manual for a minefield, it's different than what you think. Like in the movies, you think minefields are for blowing up infantry, but that's really not true. If you read the owner's manual, it says what a minefield is really for is to slow the infantry down and keep them in one place so you can shoot at them with weapons that are better than the minefield, right? And that's the whole idea behind putting deception minefields in your enterprise. It's not that you necessarily want the deception to ring the doorbell and immediately clean up the infection and everything's okay. It's that you want the enemy to move slower and to be detected further away from the objective, right? I mean, nobody puts a minefield in the middle of a bank vault, right? It's outside the bank vault is better. And if you have sufficiently many mines throughout the enterprise, you might get lucky and the bad guy might step on one of them and be detected in such a way that you can just immediately clean up the problem. But you don't even have to get that lucky. If you put the mines in the right places, then the enemy is going to notice that the mines are there and is going to slow down and may get noisier. And you may be able to detect the enemy with your regular old tool set that you've already paid for. Now, of course, the best place to have a minefield, if you can afford it, is everywhere, so that no matter where the enemy is living in your network, he has to at least disarm the mine every time he takes a step, because that makes him move really slowly. And if he ever fails to disarm one of the mines, it goes off, and that's a very reliable indicator that something is wrong in your network. But of course, having a minefield everywhere doesn't do you very much good if you can't hear the explosion when the enemy steps on one of these things. So what you would like to have is you would like to have mines everywhere, and you would also like to have sensors everywhere that tell you when the mines go off. And the trick to this, of course, is that if you're going to put mines everywhere, that means putting them on administrator systems and on end-user systems and on production systems and a bunch of fragile stuff that might break or that might frighten people if they notice that it was there. So you want to be really careful about this infrastructure to make sure that it is minimally intrusive, that it is highly performant, it doesn't have a lot of overhead, and to make sure that it doesn't frighten the natives. And this, of course, is what our friends at Elusive are helping us and others do. And the deception infrastructure, we think, is going to give us a lot of leverage on this problem of the lateral movement gap by allowing us to not just detect, but deceive and detect, catch things earlier, and start the response earlier, and hopefully be more effective. That's all I have to say. I actually made up all of the time that I went over in Tel Aviv, so I'm net positive for every single instance.